Kia ora. Welcome to Analyst Point of View. I am Maddie Pont, and we've created this podcast to educate people within the sports industry about performance analysis, what it is, and what analysts do behind the scenes. Over this series, we'll get together guests who have experience within the performance analysis industry to share stories, experiences, visions, and hope to grow the understanding of the sports analyst world. Hey, we're in Shark Park. How good. With me today, we have Giff Henry, Cam Burrows, and Will Henry. Giff, do you want to give a wee introduction, a wee bit of background about yourself?
Oh yeah, why not? So my name's Gifford Henry. How I got to the Sharks was through my older brother. When I was at high school, just playing footy and all that sort of jazz, and then going to go watch Will play. Sort of just saw all the aura of sort of what Shark Park is, especially around Kettle, and it was always a dream of mine to come here and play with them. Got to achieve that goal very little times, but I'm pretty happy to say that I ticked it off. In terms of the coaching aspect, after I sort of finished playing, sort of took a bit of time away from the club, and then, Will sort of hit me back and said, hey, do you want to come back and just do a bit of coaching? I said, nah, yeah, why not? And then sort of my passion sort of grew from there, and then, haven't looked back. Mm-hmm. And then sort of here I am. So it's a bit of background around me.
Yeah. How long have you been coaching at the club for?
5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years.
What was that first team that you started?
So the first team was Premier, like the Prem 2s, so which is called Prem Development now. So spent a year with them, and then my passion, sort of really grew as we sort of went towards sort of a bit of our finals run, and then just having a good conversation with Will just around sort of what does growth look like from a coaching aspect, and having a good relationship with Tamua and Josh Campbell, who at that time were the coaches for the Prem Colts. And I just said, okay, if I want to progress, then I'm going to try and take an opportunity with them. So I hit them up, and they were kind enough to take me on board, and sort of just started there. And then so I spent 2 years sort of honing my craft in that space, which absolutely loved, the connection that you get, and also how you connect with players of that age as well. And then the last 2 years moved up into the premier space. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And Dunedin boy, are you?
Yes, yeah. So Dunedin, born and bred. High school wise down the Kings. Lived in Caversham. God, I can't remember it. 38 Lindsay Road. Yep. 38 Lindsay Road. Can still remember it. Still a very good place to be. But yeah, grew up here my whole life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Cam?
Gee, it's pretty hard to follow. It's pretty comprehensive. He's planned that. A bit about myself. I played here as a young kid. Went away to high school at John Manglishan College. Came back out of school and played with Giff in 2014. We were lucky enough to win a Colts banner, which was the first the club had won in a while in that grade, so that was pretty exciting. Through there, played a lot of P2 rugby and a bit of Prem rugby. And then last year got a head knock and got ruled out of playing rugby again, so got into coaching from there, so helped with the Wahine space, so I've done a year and a half coaching the women, which has been really fun and really rewarding, and then outside of that just helped Tamua and some other people around the place run the club, so been the chairman here for about 3 or 4 years now, and just really proud of this place. A lot of people come and go here, and I like to think that a lot of people leave here better people for coming to Shark Park. So it's a pretty special place, and really enjoy hanging around here. And I guess it's not just about what happens on the field, but what happens off the field too, and just making sure that there's a space that people always remember their time here. And I guess we're just looking after the legacy of what Shark Park's about and what it's been about for the last, over 150 years. So it's pretty honoured to be able to do that.
Yeah, a lot of growth in those last 3 years as well, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, the club, is in a really good place in terms of we've got about 260, 270 registered senior players, and then bringing on that women's team has been a really momentous shift for us. We've been able to create some really good opportunities for some of those girls, and we've seen them progress up to higher honours. So, yeah, it's really good to see those pathways happening not only for the males but also the females.
Yep.
And I'm pretty proud of the way the club can play a role in that.
Awesome. Cool. Well,
Have you practiced that one too?
It always sucks go last, eh?
I feel like I'm the only one that hasn't practiced.
Here comes the dessert.
Yeah, so Will Henry's my name. My journey here started similar to Cam, actually. I played here as a wee fella
yep.
for 2 years. And quick story. So one of those years, I had a good season out here. I ended up scoring like 40-something tries or whatnot. And I was like telling my mum and dad at the prize giving that I was going to get the best trophy, you know, like I'm MVP, scored all these tries. And unfortunately, it went to the, unfortunately for me anyway, in my opinion, it went to the coach's son.
No video footage of those tries. The back of the
toys well out of the cot that night when we got home as an 11-year-old. And funny how timing works. My cricket coach for that following season coerced me out to Brighton actually, and I played for the greed machine out there for under 12s and under 13s. And then I guess went to high school, and so played at King's High School. And leaving King's, I actually wanted to be a cricketer. I was trying, so I sort of played rugby and cricket, and leaving King's High School, wanted to try and push in cricket, so I didn't play any rugby. I didn't want to play any footy. And then we got halfway through the year, and my best mate Paul Conrad and his family are like massive ties to this club. Convinced me, you should just we're short this week, and it was like the uni holidays. Like we're really short this week. You should just come have a jam, come have a play. So I was like, all right, okay, I'll do that. So did that, and I was about to leave after the game, and he's like, no, we've got a big function on tonight, you should come. And ended up being like a club night, all the teams were here, there were skits on, and I remember just sort of sitting here going, gosh, if it's been like this all year, I've just been missing out on like all this fun, you know?
Yeah.
And then the following week, the Marcos of the Prem Colts team, their prop was silly enough to jump into where all the tackle bags are held here and smacked his head and knocked himself out. And they needed a prop, so Grant Devlin, or Grunter as he's famously known here, asked me to come and play, and so I played 2 more games and lost the final. And after that, I was sold. I was locked in, and so that was 2003, and played the next year for the Prem Colts and won a banner there and made some bloody good mates. And, that was awesome, and then I guess went on from there for 05 and played for the Prems here until I finished up in 2016. It was my last year.
Big stint.
Yeah, it was an amazing stint, and probably similar to what these guys have mentioned around just what the club meant to me, and the amount of people that you meet who are not only invested at the club but you as people, and give you opportunities, and whether you win, lose or draw, they're the same person to you. So like Paul Conrad's old man will get stuck into you first, and then he'll enjoy a beer with you later, type of thing. And those are the memories and the relationships that I really treasure playing club footy, and just the values that they sort of instill in you around club footy. So, that was sort of my journey with here at Dunedin in terms of playing. And then in sort of coaching, I kind of fell into it a wee bit when I got injured in 2010. Going into 2011 season. So I did my knee when I was overseas for a wee bit and come back and couldn't play as much. So I wanted to try and still be involved with footy here. And so I went to Grant Devlin, who had the Marcos at the time, and so I said, look, I'd love just to be a part, help out, and he welcomed me in with open arms, and being involved with that team, and saw how the coaching side of things, not just the playing side, sort of opened my eyes, and something that sparked my interest. We did this one move where they used it in a final, actually, like a pick and go, but the way you would do it is you'd seal it. You couldn't do it in this day and age, but you'd seal it. And they managed to do like 24 of these in a row and wasted like 10 minutes time against a star-studded Kaikoura Colts team against, we're just a battler Dunedin side, and they ended up getting the win, and playing a small part in that sort of sparked my interest in coaching and the tactics. And and then I guess littered between then and now was just different opportunities with coaching the Colts teams and the Prem 2 or Prem development here, as well as the Prems, coaching at King's High School. So when I finished in 2016, myself and Ryan Banbury, who also played here, we joined forces to coach the Kings High School first for 4 years, 2017 to 2020. And a few rep opportunities here and there around the 19th and whatnot. So it's just kind of been all go and around footy.
Cool. And that role that you've had this year?
The role that I've had this year with Otago? So I guess, very fortunate to be considered for the role at Otago, which is, its title is Regional Development Coach. Essentially, I'm there to help develop coaches and players in our community and our high performance space.
Cool.
For sort of 2/3 of the year, and then the other third of the year I get to go over with the Highlanders and assist Kane Jury, who's the talent development manager there, to I guess accelerate the habits, the learning of their high performance players, so they're trying to push into the big team. So been there so about a year ago when I started. It's been a bit of a journey. You because the role hasn't been established already. You're having to make up, some of the content you're having to make up, and having to grow new relationships. And there's definitely plenty of things that we have nailed, which is awesome, but also a lot of things I'd like to add and improve. So.
And I suppose going from that, you guys have had your fair share of rugby environments and that level of performance analysis over those. You've probably seen a lot of different environments. So if you go back, when was your first introduction to performance analysis, or a form of performance analysis, whether that be, I don't know, footage, or, I don't know, 2003 was that's when I was born.
I was going to say, gee, thanks, guys.
No, kidding.
It was quite funny. I still remember in 2014, I don't know if you'd call it performance analysis, but Giff and I were in the Central Library drawing up starter play moves and working out where positions on the field people needed to be in Colts, but that was still pen and paper back then.
Yeah, I remember that year. That was probably the one year that I actually played a significant amount of games due to injuries. But I just remember sitting in the Central Library being trying to study and everything, and just being just having this pile of blank. I used to be this guy with a blank A4 paper, just a pile of them. Just a real weird like that. Everybody had their notebooks and stuff. I just had this pile
of paper.
Just A4 paper, and just drawing, just moves, and phase plays, and what did we do on Tuesday, and then who would always be. I'd always sit on the second tier at Central Library, and I would always see Burrow just tucked himself around the corner, first floor. I'd be like, I'll just go have a wee yarn down to Burrows, and it's funny, man. It was just sort of us that started it, and then all of a sudden, there was Jack O'Muir that, other guys, James DeRee, even Peach, Nathan O'Brien. All of a sudden, we sort of had this table that would form after studying for about 20 minutes. And then, we would just chuck out an idea, and somebody might scribble something differently, and then boom, well, not quite footage, but sort of just using a bit of pen and paper.
But it was those bases of understanding where people would typically be on the field, and rather than just coaching to an ideology, actually kind of go, what's realistic about where these people would be. And I guess if you look at our coaching now with access to footage, we get that visual representation of a game, whereas we were doing it off our minds back then. But I remember coming into the Prem space where kind of Elevate was new in the game, and we'd got access to that, and all of a sudden, we're starting to study line-out calls, and all of a sudden you'd hope that the mics picked up the opposition's line-outs calls, and you'd go back through all their games and record their line-outs, what they did, and start really studying there. But I guess you were coaching at that time, Will, so you were using it a lot as well.
You do spend a lot of time looking through footage. It's just funny when you guys are talking around, meeting in the library and going through footage. I remember sitting with when I was still playing, but involved with the Otago Academy briefly, sitting with Sam and Heather, and we used to get the CD, this, chuck it in, look, and we'd be clicking, and wasn't the clearest footage, like HD now, very fuzzy footage, and the types of views, it was only one type of view that you'd get, so if it was closer, it would be great, especially the scrum and line and stuff, but if it was far away, you just sort of fast forward that part. But even going like further back when I first started Prem, it was VHS, like you'd have the 2000 final. I remember watching that on tape, just chuck the VHS in, and that was even blurrier again, and the ability to rewind it and whatnot was crazy. So I'd say around the analysis part, it was probably, in the early stages anyway for my experience for it, and like we were just freeballing really. Like, we were just sort of looking at it and trying to pick up what you could without any real direction around what to look for, or we're just freeballing really.
And I think a lot of that came from watching rugby on TV, right? And I call it like the watching rugby with the old man on the couch kind of mentality of the old man would point something out about what this player did off the ball and you'd then try to take that to the training field and things like that. And I guess that kind of laid a lot of foundation for like, what happened before we had access to club footage, but from that kind of rugby mentality, rugby smarts, it was always that kind of watching rugby on TV, and you talk about those old VHS games, a lot of that.
I can resonate. That resonates with me, mate, because I definitely listen to our old man, but I don't know if Giff. Usually you'd start pointing at something and Giff would be looking this way.
Nah, because to be honest, like going back to that point, like from a school perspective, I remember after every game, our first 15 coach, especially the last 2 years, his name was Daryl Patterson, would always say after the game, hey, if you've got time tonight, go and watch those Super Rugby games, 7:30 and 9:30. Yeah, and that was pretty much our homework. Yeah. We're like, not really talking about our game, but if you want to go watch and improve, go watch those. And then, getting the old man pointing out what I did during that day and how it actually should be done on the TV. Yeah. So my listening skills really bent really badly after that. So, nah.
I suppose that's that whole, you don't realise it, but you're unconsciously probably analysing a game as you watch it. Even if it wasn't your team, you're sitting there being like, oh yeah, like especially as players, I come from a different kind of point of view where I haven't been a player. I think that's one thing that I struggled to start looking at rugby in a way. I've always watched rugby, but it changed when I started working with you guys last year. I was so fresh, man, fresh. And I think growing up watching rugby is so different to when you come into a team environment. You're hearing all the calls and stuff that they're saying, and you're like, I didn't realise that every single move out there has a call. So it's those little things that you don't realise, even though you're watching rugby, but you just pick up wee things. And then I think that helped me in my environment last year, but I was so fresh. And I think as you guys it was your first year having someone set, last year. Yeah. So I think, because I remember meeting with you, Cam, and Staples next door. Yeah. I was so nervous.
Staples was like, what am I doing here? I'm getting a young Matty involved with a club full of heaps of members. What's going on? But I'll set these two up for the answer. But I guess what we identified as a club when we had that meeting was kind of going, we're getting these kids now out of these school environments where they're used to a professional rugby program. We are an amateur club, you know what I mean? No one gets paid to play here, and that, you know what I mean? But what we do offer is that whole picture of rugby. So we try to offer really good coaching, good managers, and all that off-field stuff that will make you a better rugby player. A $5,000 check isn't going to do that, but, you know what I mean? We've got the infrastructure here to help you. And what we identified pretty quickly is that, you know what I mean, the analysis and the what our coaches could do with that was a real point of difference. So when we wanted to invest in that as a club, we kind of said, well, actually, to our coaching group, you know, we needed you to, when there was pressure on the coaches as well to kind of go, here's what the kids are getting out of school from head of rugby, how do we replicate that in club league? So maybe you two can comment on that. But
you can maybe talk to, because you're in it at the moment with the club, you can talk to how it is with the club, and I can talk around.
Like from a club perspective, like, you know, when we first got that tool, it's sort of like, God, you're a kid in a candy store a wee bit. And, you know, touching back to like sort of my enjoyments away from rugby, like I'm a huge NFL, American football guy. Like, you know, grew from when I was like 16, just playing on PlayStation. And one thing that they do extremely well is how they digest film, how they watch it, what are they looking for, and then also applying it. So I guess without knowing that I'd ever sort of use it, but like just I'd always continuously watch it. It's just on YouTube, but just how they're doing it and all that sort of stuff. And then when you guys came on board last year, honestly, it was like, okay, you got all these tools, and you got Elevate, and then sort of what I learned last year massively was, okay, you've got all of this. What's sort of the one or two things that you can use from an analyst perspective, or that footage, so that you can apply it and really help these kids grow, because when they do come in and then you offer them this footage stuff, sometimes you can sort of bury them.
Yeah, 100%.
In that.
So overwhelming with all those numbers and all that information.
Yeah.
And I think you guys did that really well.
Yeah.
Is you had your set goals for the season, and you just provided the same stuff to them every week. And if there was another little thing that came through, you're like, yeah. And I think in that last year's season, my first season, I had no idea what I was up to. But it was also like that, working with you and Tamua to kind of figure out that relationship and how I could help you instead of me just going away and doing something that's not beneficial. And I think after that season last year, I kind of knew more around what the team was looking for, and being around a team environment and understanding, like, especially this year coming into that coach and management group, knowing what you guys are after, because there's no point me being kind of in the lurk and not really. Whereas it was kind of, even with Steve this year, had a bit more knowledge on what he wanted as well. So it's just that growth. But
definitely.
I think you guys use it really well in terms of you come to trainings and you've always got your two clips, not much, and then you pull heaps just from those clips. But not too much where the boys are sitting there like,
Well, it was funny, like that first year when you actually came in, I remember my first 4 weeks of a review and a preview, I was having like six clips, man. Like it was, I look back at it now and I go, man, like, what was I really wasted a lot of time there, and probably wasted a lot of their time as a player's perspective, but and I'm just sort of learning how to just boil it all down and just be nice and clear, because that's all they're after, Last thing they want there is sitting there and going, oh, what is clip 5, 6, clip 3, and just a bit of confusion. But I think like the whole growth thing, like from your perspective, like you sort of grew into it with us as well. Like we were very much new to it, just like you were new to us. And I do remember very later in the season, sort of you sparking just a few small ideas about, okay, now I can start to see what they're after. Hey, Giff, what do you think about this? Hey, Tamua, what do you think about this certain percentage from an attack perspective? And then I think your confidence grew away.
Yeah, 100%. And kind of that, I suppose my knowledge was growing as well as my confidence. I think that's probably why my confidence was growing, because I was like, I actually kind of feel like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, big time.
I think by the end of the season, I still was kind of a bit like, I don't know if I could come up and, to the boys especially, and be like, hey, you could, this could be something you could do. But that's with growth, that's with experience, and I think that definitely developed over my time with you guys.
And Will, from a coaching perspective as well, that's probably changed coaching messaging as well, like rather than the talk for the sake of talking, the weight principle, why am I talking, and actually using evidence to support your messaging?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think we obviously all learn differently as well, so I was literally doing a session today with a young fella from varsity who's trying to transition out of a flanker role into a front row role.
Good to hear.
You get them to, you sort of coach them around what they should sort of look like, what it should feel like, and then you get the camera out and you sort of go, well, does that match what you're feeling, like their body awareness? And just as soon as we showed him that, he was like, oh, no, yeah, I get it, and goes back, fixes it just like that. So the different learning tools is massive. I also think like with your players, if you are doing work over the off season or they want to connect, then for them to be able to take a quick clip and then refer that back to a game that they've, so like, say there was something in a game that they wanted to improve, and they're working on that, they can take a quick clip of themselves and they can match it up. But you can do that from distance. You don't have to physically be there with them to help encourage their development, them searching for the development. So yeah, 100%, mate.
Because you would have seen it from that inception, right, when you came into the coaching to now, you know what I mean, like how you plan and what you like the language you use? Like, is it a lot more questioning now because you can kind of go, here's the evidence to support what you're saying or what you're not saying?
Yep, 100%. And around that language, I would probably try and let them digest or like take it off the footage as well, like kind of like Matt's point where around there was only 2 clips, but you draw a lot out of that, and the players can. I think potentially as coaches we can fill the space too much for them. We want to feel like we need to give them the answers, but if we sort of just hold back and question really well to draw it out of them, then they start to, I guess, build those connections, and then we sort of can potentially try and help them facilitate their own searching of the footage and speeding that up, like you were saying, to kind of how you say, oh, look, I wonder if I tell these players.
Yep.
Something you could do is, oh, have you gone through and clipped these parts of your game and seen any trends? Just to sort of help them.
I think that was the big difference from last year too, was the amount of players that actually, I know it wasn't necessarily heaps, but there was definitely a development, well, I noticed, in terms of boys coming up to me and being like, oh, hey, how do I do this? And that was cool because I'm like, hey, you're actually wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And that's like you coming to a training and them having homework and you expecting them to kind of come with information and have watched the footage.
Yeah, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong, like at the start of it can be a wee bit of ebbs and flows. Like at the start of the season, they're always hitting you with clips of this, and then you get to sort of the dark days of club footy, and then it sort of stagnates a wee bit, and it's just sort of how you can drive that and get that back, pushing that back up again. And you're right though, like sometimes, like this, especially this year, I think the big one that really showed their growth was, when you mentioned to them, hey, like, I can obviously see that you guys are all on Elevate, That was pretty cool. And I was like, yeah. If you would have did that last year, I'd bank 20% of the squad would have only been on that Elevate.
Yeah.
Or actually looked, and then, but you were doing it consistently, and it sort of just reinforced, us as well, that, okay, we're actually on sort of a good track here, okay?
Yeah, well, and especially because we had so many players, and coming in different parts of the season, it was just, I think I felt that I was not responsible, but I made sure that I messaged them like, hey, look, are you able to see this game? Or I even had the new players coming in and being like, hey, how can I have access to that game? Which was really good.
Yeah.
And I think that potentially, and especially I brought the iPads to training, which I wasn't doing last year, and I think that was beneficial for that forwards group as well. And Steve was always like, God, he would list off the stats, But can you remember when I came to training? And so on Elevate, on Elevate, there's like a spreadsheet, an Excel sheet of all the percentages, everything you could possibly need from the game. And I brought it up and I was like to the boys, hey, look, like, I'm not sure if you know that it's here, but I'm just reminding you again that it's here. And Tamura and Giff had been using it, but Steve, bless him, he'd been going through the games and counting everything himself and creating his own notebook percentages and coming to the training with them. And I put it up and he said, has it always been there?
He goes to me. He nudges me and he's like, oh, on the phone. How do you get that? And I was like, what, that? And he's like, yeah, that. So I open it up and then I go, oh, you just got to scroll here. And there was a bit of scrolling sort of up and then getting it into the right corner because he only does it on his phone. Yeah. And then I sort of just clicked it and it popped up and and I was like, yeah, you could, if you go over 2-3 more, there's lineouts, there's scrums and all this sort of stuff. And he goes, looks the other
that
way.
would have saved him so much time.
I thought there was just a builder in him, measure twice and then cut once. Mentality. So.
But I suppose that's the thing. I'd mentioned it last season, but then it got I think it must have been halfway through this season, and because I was supposed to do it earlier on, but then I made sure to do it again, but he'd been doing that.
Yeah, man.
And that's some mahi from him.
Yeah.
But that's what it used to be like, I suppose. And that was kind of cool to see my role come in and be like, hey, this is what you've got. This is how you can use it. And I suppose that's what the part of having that person in that environment is, just to show what there is and how you can utilise it to its full potential.
Yeah, I've just been away at the under-18 women's tournament in Christchurch, and so we didn't have analysts and we didn't have footage. So I've got my notebook, and so I've got down in my columns, all the different types of penalties, my tick charts, our scrums. Yeah. Did we get a good outcome, line out? So that, that was going back because, we were away on a 3-day, we had 3 games in 3 days. So again, players always wanting feedback. Yeah. How do you give that feedback without the footage? Well, you've got to have the stats behind it. And it was quite a reminder of how far we've come. Yep. Because, a lot of these girls haven't been exposed to the footage necessarily, but actually, when you're giving feedback, you want to always ask those questions around penalty counts and things. And, how are we turning possession over? We're giving away 16 penalties. Okay, well, but how are we giving those away? What actions can we change? Because not all 16 of those are because of the ref. Yeah. It's like people like to say. And so it was quite interesting just going back a step, actually, and going to this tournament and not having that. And so, I've got the notebook at home, and it's quite funny just, having to scribble that down. Yeah. And that's that transition we've gone through. And it's how again it shows you that how far we've come in such a short period of time when you like that benefit that has.
Yeah, and that's even like making points as a coach and then being able to be like, hey, look, this is how you can do it, or how it has been done, here's what you should do. And when we spoke to Rianga, she said it's just like that, I suppose. It just backs up what you're saying. It's that evidence for you as a coach, but it's...
And I think coaching, I know I can tell you my coaching philosophy, and I think it's similar to what we've had some conversations about this, is you don't want to coach robots. You can coach someone a game plan and coach them their job to do, but my philosophy, and I think is shared by these guys, is to coach good rugby players. And so to do that, it's more about their awareness of the game and what they are seeing and how they can make the right decision at the right time. So it's that kind of change in philosophy, whereas I think if you're a results coach, or probably some of those coaches you had early on, it's very much, this is the style we're playing, your job is to do this carry around the corner. There's a case like, say, in our club, throw the ball to this guy until his hands bloody bleed, you know what I mean? Like, you had your role in the team, whereas now it's actually moving away from that, and actually let's go back to coaching good rugby players, and having access to footage and stuff really helps that.
Yeah, kind of on that point, Cam. I think players want to know why. Now, why do we do things? Not just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I found that especially with any time I've been in the women's space, which has been awesome for my coaching, because you kind of have to sort of dig just that extra layer deeper, and the footage is really helpful for that. Like, you can actually, the penny can drop far more times, I reckon, with the footage assisting. Like, we can talk to it as much as we want, but when they actually get to see it, they go, oh, okay, that's why that happened. You might need to go back 2 or 3 frames or 2 or 3 phases to keep educating them. And I think that's what we're after. We're continually trying to develop our players' understanding of the game to maximise the skills they have and the opportunities in front of them, whether it be on attack or defence or whatnot. But
and I think that we saw this during the club season this year, when we were kind of like the first women's team to actually have access to footage, and all of a sudden the girls were going to spirit training and talking about the game and what they saw, and then all of a sudden the other clubs start going to their committee, well, where's our footage, why don't we have access? And especially when you're trying to coach spatial awareness and things like that, when they can look at the camera on halfway and see actually all our players are in one half of the field, where's the space? That visualisation is so important, and I think it's been awesome. It's an awesome tool for the women's game just to actually be able to see that, and it's not just the men that get access to it. Actually, it's part of the rugby process now.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that women's environment. How have you? I suppose, because what women's team have you worked with?
Me.
When you're talking about working with.
women. So like part of my role is having to get out where I can to support our community, but I've worked with the FBC team just a wee bit this year, more in and amongst their gym training and then the odd session out on grass. So I guess getting out with them, and like they are hungry to get on the footage and see themselves go. Like they're so keen to get better. We've kind of talked about that previously. They feel like they can do more and keep doing more. So the assistance of footage and then the stats to back it up. Has been awesome in that space.
How would you say? I don't want to compare, but that women's space compared to that men's space with, I suppose, that how they use it, or how they want to use it. Is there any difference, or is it pretty similar?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm probably not privy to the whole team as such. Been very lucky to be working with Eilish Doyle this year, so we sort of catch up once a week and I guess just chew the fat, all things footy. And I help her do a bit of analysis on her scrummaging. Just keeping her sharp there. So she's very diligent. But I think we can all continue to work on how we digest film, a bit like what Giff was saying around the NFL stuff. Like, as a coach, can be daunting. You want to feel like you get across everything. And then from what you've seen, how do you drum it down so that they can digest it easy? So that's us as coaches, and the players are probably the same. They feel like they need to be across everything. So how do we keep educating them to view the footage in a certain way so that they're getting the most bang for their buck? Because everyone lives pretty busy lives these days, and there's so much going on. So, the amount of time you, I guess, put into watching the footage, you want to get the best bang for buck. And so I did a wee bit with that with her too, just sort of searching what is she looking at as a whole, and not telling her not to look at stuff, but sort of saying, well, how much time do you have, and how can we prioritise to get the biggest things or biggest shifts for you? And really receptive. Like, she's awesome, but
she was actually, because I did a bit of, I did stuff with the Spirit this year, and that iPad stuff, she was always coming up to me and she's like, oh, can I see that? Like, is that going to be up later? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, could you just play that back? And I'll be like, yeah.
So that iPad.
So she's always, the one that's really willing to.
And she,
see.
and I guess you want those sort of types of players to then help drive your environment.
And she did. She's so good at being like, oh, like, come look at this. This is. And I did notice it a couple of times.
That's
or
cool
like
way.
make sure you, her learning, and then she'd put it on others and be like, oh, if you just watch that later, and then that's how, or that she'd be telling someone how to fix their positioning in a scrum or something, and then she'd be like, just go back and watch the footage later so you can see yourself, and then go from there off that. Which I think that's what is actually really cool about that live feedback stuff.
Well, it's
and
massive, honestly.
in that Otago environment, I would always see it, and then that's why I was like to Steve, hey, look, should I bring the iPad along this season, and we'll do a bit of that. And it's just the boys being able to watch, because you can tell them a player so much, and then they don't kind of know how to fix themselves, and then you show them what they look like, and it's like, sweet.
I'll always refer back to Mike Crone. I was listening to a podcast he was on, and he refers to, I guess, the way that players digest information, and especially footage. And he kind of rated it stars. So he's like 5-star learning for him would be iPad then and there, or the availability of footage there and then for a player to review and fix it straight away. 3 stars that night, so getting a chance to have a look that night, and then 1 star the next day. So not even 2 days later, the very next day, 1 star in terms of how that then sinks in. So he was pretty successful and encouraged.
And even in that Landers under 18 environment last week, like, it was cool seeing that kind of age and that level have that available to them, and see how they're like, oh, this is quite interesting. And when we were doing that scrum stuff with the boys, and you would tell them something, then they'd come watch that live feedback, and then they'd go back in and they'd fix it. And there's this one boy who you spent quite a lot of time talking to, and he would come up and he'd look at it, and then I was just quietly watching him, and he just got better over such a short period. And that was cool.
Yeah, I guess if we talk quickly about the 18s, the Highlanders under 18 space, it was, these guys are exposed to different levels of analysis too, like for whatever reason, but awesome, so that when they get there, that they're all the same, I guess, have access to the same type of analysis, which is awesome. And it's awesome that you got to see a player just cool. grow that much, and like, so that's just confirmation for me around what Chrono's talking around, just how quickly they can, and again, just the ability for, I guess, players to see it and go, oh gosh, I look like that. Like, and the same for coaches too. Like, I often ask them, like, I'm trying to demonstrate and be like, does that actually look all right, boys? Is that pretty And half the time it's not too bad, and the other time, oh, you get down, we'll video you then, and you show me how it's done. So
I think it's an interesting one though as well, right? And I think we've got to be careful around, again, how we use analysis, because we've got to keep reminding ourselves that the fun part of rugby is the sporadic nature of it. Whereas, you know what I mean, we look at a Rugby World Cup now and we see the military nature into the way some nations play and some teams play. We've got to make sure that we don't use analysis at the detriment of free-flowing play, and it's the right times to engage in. Like that next step up, it's that really important part. But what we don't want to see is, like, or from personally, is lots of, you mean, coaching those younger levels using it. Like, there's certainly a time and place for technique and stuff, but we've just got to be careful about how that's used versus the philosophy of coaching and how those things are paired up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think I've sort of fell into the trap of that a wee bit last year from my perspective. Just in the Prem space, I sort of made sort of my space not very fun, you know? And there's times where you can, you know, really delve into the footage and get into your technique and stuff, but you got to understand that, you know, the landscape of that, where these players are at, they're also here to really have fun with their mates.
Especially at that club level way.
So basically, you know, help me strip back this year and also still give the technical, the tactical, but also try and make, in terms of my area, which was defence, try and make that really fun for them. You know, can we have fun on this side of the ball? And this is sort of what it looks like, you know?
And I suppose that's important too, because you've got the players in that club level, especially at Prems, that are playing that next level up, and there's some that are totally happy playing at that level, and that's, I suppose, just having that balance, eh?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And it's, I think, a big thing, like you say, is just pulling the things that are important, pulling the things that kind of support what you're wanting to say, what you're wanting to see, and then keeping the rest.
Yeah, and just be brave about it as well. Like, you know, you got to think, man, these players, they're being brave every Saturday. You know, they're going out there, putting those jerseys on, they're being brave. So we're just going to be brave from a coaching standpoint that, like, you know, when we use the footage, and we might only be those 2 clips. We might have 6, but it's got to be brave about those 2 clips and just, you know, really commit to it. And it can be wrong, you know, and sometimes the players give you the feedback. Okay, actually, I'm sort of seeing this, and all of a sudden it taps into another clip that you can bring that one in and just replace that one out, you know, and then you get confirmation from them, from yourself, moving forward, you know. I think that's pretty cool.
It's a cool tool, hey?
Yeah. 100%.
I love how you guys are talking about fun, and like the video part doesn't have to be just about diving into the game. Like I've seen in different environments, like I know NBC side has used it where they try and find all the best clips to really pump up the group and sort of actually show them, like, look at all the awesome stuff you are doing. You know, like we can tend to have a certain lens where we're just trying to fix everything, and that can come across negative tone. So I've seen them do that where they really try and pump up the ties of the group, but also like any funnies, like when like guys drop the ball, like, you know, like a sniper shoots them and they trip over, or like, you know, the old pants go down and the old full moon's out. So like just using that tool not only for diving deep, but to pump the tyres if it's some awesome play on footage, or even stats like 100 out of 100 there, whatever it is, like just to pump tyres. Like it's another tool as well, not just around the improving part of your game. So it's,
and I think that's where the different environments, you know what I mean, you have those different focuses, and when you've got lots of touch points, and that becomes really important. Whereas in a club level, we might only have 3 hours of contact time during the week, you know what I mean, or 4 hours at a push of contact time. So how do we make the best use of that time? And I think to Gus' point earlier, it's about trusting your processes of a coach, and when those dark days come, you can always try and search for an answer, but trying to bring it back to your philosophy as a coach and believe that you've got the skills to get out of those ruts, and you can always try and search for answers, and footage can be that kind of catch-22 where you can always overanalyze it, whereas sometimes, you know, man, we make mistakes. Our players are humans too, you know what I mean? So really that process-driven coaching, and especially at club level where you don't have the same time. You know what I mean? Coaching is a small aspect of your life. So balancing all that's really important.
Yeah. And like the whole, like, having the footage available from a coaching standpoint, just like frees up so much time for us. Like just having the footage available, then being very clear about sort of what you want to achieve from the week. If there's any sort of fix-it, you can just get it done, because you know you're very clear, and you can send it to, it might be 1 or 2, 3 players, or it could be for the whole team. You know, giving it to them, fixing it, and then you're just moving on. You know, I think like previous years, and especially when I was coaching in the Marcos, like with JC and Murray, we didn't obviously have any analysis or ability to have footage, but you're sort of just rolling on every week, sort of just using your mind, going through memory. And I remember that year, I remember JC saying, okay, Giff, you got the defence, all I want you to do, defensive penalties. I was like, okay, yep, I want the count every half, and I was like, oh yeah, sweet. So I started doing it like this. Like my second game, I remember the second game, I was like, listen, I better put that away. Here's the D coach. Oh man, yeah, crack up, man.
But I think you were always, actually both you and Moo, always good at, you've got something that's a work on. You guys, hey look, like maybe this isn't, you didn't kind of perform, well not perform, but execute what we talked about executing. But then you always showed something that was good. Like, hey, look what you guys did well this week. And I think that was cool because then, it's like, oh yeah.
It was very dependent on what sort of mood I was in. How you golf went and what the stats sort of produce. It would be very, depend on how encouraging I really wanted to be. But yeah, just I really, learnt that sort of over the last couple of years as well. Just, go back to the point of, we can look at footage and just look at all the amounts of fix-its that we need to do, but you also forget we did some awesome things, and got to touch upon it, because it obviously breathes life, and it breathes life to you as well, as a coach as well. You can say that, okay, we did some good things, but it might just be one fix. That's all good. Can help us this week.
I think there's also been some really cool developments, and it's a wee bit off topic, but also around how the use of footage and having cameras has enabled us to live stream games, and all of a sudden like a town like ours, we've got parents spread across the country, and they can actually tune into games now and actually watch their kids play, or family members that are all around the world can watch. And I think that's been a really awesome thing that's come out of this, is actually we changed the way we look at rugby, and like as a club now, and as we go forward, how we do more of that and get more live footage going, because actually that's what is meaningful for the players and stuff. They want to show their family what's going on, whereas historically it's been, we're down at the bottom of the country, parents might come once and through their 3-year university degree to come see them, and now if we can get more games where that's filmed, the kids absolutely love it, and that's that jibbing and all that rivalry that comes out of rugby and all that fun stuff. So I think that's been one of the really cool things that's come out of like this footage and stuff developing, is actually we've got that capability to do things now, and it can happen relatively easy.
And that's, I don't know if I'd say easy, elevate, like that live stream. You can do a simple live stream on your phone, but that top quality live stream, when you've got, it takes a lot of people and a lot of bodies to move that, but when it does happen, it's pretty cool. And like families, like you said, just keeping that connection and that club connection through family as well is pretty cool. And that development over time, obviously we've talked about it from your guys kind of starting in the rugby coaching, how it's changed to now. How do you see it developing further, especially in that, I think, that women's space potentially at a club level, and you've worked with under-18s. I'm actually shocked that you had no footage on that tournament. I don't know if I would be shocked whether that's where were you, Canterbury, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think the awesome thing about the women's space is that you've got your lifelong rugby players, but you've also got the people coming from other sports that come into an environment and actually got natural skill and natural ability, and they pick the game up pretty fast. What they don't always pick up is some of that rugby sense and that rugby smart. So what footage enables is you do a lot of that kind of rugby awareness coaching without kind of just splitting one-on-one and talking, so you can kind of go talk about a lot more positioning and things like that. So we've seen some really good players. Atawai Horton is a good example. Come across from touch, make spirit in her first year of playing club footy, but only played rugby for 1 year. So actually, all of a sudden now we've got, like, her rugby smarts has developed so quickly because of footage and because we had access to it. But I think it's that detail that Will was talking about as well. It's like the why am I doing this? Why? And that's the awesome thing about coaching in this space, because it always challenges you to think, actually, what is the plan behind this? What am I trying to achieve? And I guess that footage always reinforces it. And I think it's that balancing act of using it, but also having it in your back pocket that if that is coming in question, actually, well, here's what the difference is. But again, it comes down to that I guess that philosophy, that coaching philosophy, and I guess every coach will use it a little bit differently.
Yep.
But there's always going to be those players that always want feedback. So a good example is young Abigail Patton. She's hungry for footy, loves footy. And so we had a game in Canada tournament, and she did lots of things in the first game. And I came back after the game. I just challenged her. I said, "How many of those were successful in your mind?" Straight after the game, hot minute. She goes 75 to 80%. And I said, well, I think it was 40 to 50%. And then we didn't have a coded analysis, but there was a YouTube link of the game. She came back the next day and she said, yeah, 50 to 60% was about right. But again, I guess it's that enables you to kind of help those players at different levels with different questioning. So like someone like her, where those decision-making skills will need to be tested, the footage helps kind of authenticate that. Whereas at the other scale, you've got someone who's just trying to learn to run a line or get into the right position, and so you can use it for that. So it's that breadth of coaching that footage enables you to do. But you've got to be careful not to let it consume you either, because I think that's the dangerous part.
It can also open the window to connect with your player as well. Like I've had experiences where you start some individual stuff with your player, you delve into the footage, and 3 weeks later you've got nowhere. Versus sometimes you have another player where you delve into the footage and boom, they just progress. But it's also understanding that sometimes the player, and exactly what you were talking about, they learn differently. Sometimes the whole footage, if you delve them into too much of it, then they just get lost. Even though you're trying to be very specific and clear, it might even just be around tackle height. Getting them into a certain position. But if you keep showing, more footage around it, they just get a wee bit lost. But then it's also a great connector, because you're like, actually, maybe he doesn't respond that way. Okay, how from a coaching standpoint can I change this? So that, okay, I might have to bring in some more bodies, I have to bring some more bodies or another coach, just to help back me up, I think that's sort of an awesome opening for us as coaches as well.
Just trying to think the question again, so where do we kind of see it going, Well, I guess we tried, so I reckon we're starting to see potentially more of our young people not watching the game as a whole, like Cam talks about game awareness. And that's why, I don't know if you were there when we did that activity with the Honda Schools boys where they watched the All Black game, this one just gone, and we asked them to specifically watch their position in the game. So not only watching the footage, but actually watching an area of game and understanding the why, or what didn't you understand about what they were doing with their position and stuff. So I think that's potentially maybe not to do with the analysis and that it provides, but how do we keep encouraging our young people to use it as the tool that it is, or to maximise it as a tool. And I guess the other thing is maybe, like you were talking about how it took you a year to kind of feel like you found your feet in it with the team. And then I'll challenge you around, well, how much do the coaches still ask of you to look specifically for stuff? And is that the way we have to go to shorten up what we show and then get them to search in other ways? If that makes sense?
It does.
Like you've had a year, we could have gained that year if we'd found a way to bridge that faster.
And I think that's that learning, It's kind of, and the players are the same. It's like, and it's funny you say it's become a trend throughout this podcast, is the why. It's why is this beneficial to me? Why do I need to, it's kind of, if I provided you with a stat, you're like, well, why is this going to benefit, the boys? And I think that was also, I asked you guys a lot, is you would ask me to find that, and I'd be like, oh, so like why? I think that's a big picture. And
so
I think asking those,
how do we as coaches help bridge that with our analysis, like we're actually a team and we grow that together?
I think that's between us kind of developed towards the end of this season, and the fact that we had a lot more conversations about the actual plays, and I think it's just that communication. But then it's hard, because if I don't understand what they're saying, then I don't know how you can.
I guess that's what I'm getting to. How do we keep then encouraging our coaches to dig a wee bit deeper with the people that are supporting them,
Yeah.
our analysis people, to provide the footage that you
Yeah.
want and to provide the statistics to back up what you're looking for or what you're trying to find,
But I think
to push that space forward.
I think that's having that involvement and understanding what you guys are looking for and being a part of the training, seeing what the boys are pulling, talking to the coaches. I asked all three of them at the start of the season, what are your key points that you're looking at? And then I was able to kind of, it's a real grey area, go back and have a fair idea of what I was providing to them each week. I don't know if that's what you're getting at.
Oh yeah,
It's-
no, I just
I
guess
think-
that like if we're talking about how we can keep
keep pushing
forward
it.
the analysis and like that transition, so not losing a year, well not
Yeah.
losing a year, but like that year being cut down and then they're finding more,
I suppose that,
we're searching more value out of
Yeah.
it and refining it
and I think that's where it's going to come in, having someone in a team, environment, and being in that environment for like a couple of seasons, 3 seasons before I think you actually fully understand what each other wants. I think that's what's challenging, is that it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I guess I'd challenge it though, right? And I think that's when we talk about where rugby needs to go, is it's actually showing that you don't have to be a past player or to be a coach and to be involved in a coaching team, because that coaching team is now the big philosophy. Gone are the days of the head coach, assistant coach, that's it. It's a coaching team, it takes a waka to get a team to an end outcome.
Yep.
And I guess that questioning about how you bring someone who's foreign to the technical terms into it is actually a good challenge for the coaching group about how I simplify my language, because if I can't explain it to someone who's not a non-rugby person, am I overcomplicating it?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the purpose of the game is to get the ball over that line. You know what I mean? So everyone has that base understanding. So actually, am I getting too technical? You know what I mean? Is my messaging getting picked up by my playing group? And having that, that broader coaching group and that's confident enough to challenge each other. And I think that's probably where you're talking about. It's taking years to build that confidence to actually go to Giff, hey Giff, I think this is this, or this is why. But if you say that with that confidence, then Giff's going to respect that confidence. And I think that's where that coaching space will develop, because I think the risk for rugby, right, is we become over analytical, over technical, and people don't want to watch that, right? And we talk about where analysis is going, is that people want to watch clips of things. You know what I mean? 80 minutes of rugby, I'd rather watch that in 30 minutes, or 25 minutes. So how do you do that? And then having those people that aren't just core traditional rugby people involved in that coaching group will help challenge that.
And I think that's where that major step in growth was this season. Was last season it was so basic and there wasn't much that I was able to, I suppose, understand. Whereas this year it was like I had the confidence. I was like, so why are you doing that? What? And most of the time they did literally sit me down and be like,
good though,
but that's
Well,
how I had, because I haven't played rugby before.
That's where that women's space is exactly what's happening, right? We've got these people coming new to the game. Why do you want me to run this line? What do you mean you want me to fold my head on the outside? What does that look like? And that's,
I think,
language stuff.
I think that's, I know, like you said, it's a bit of a theme, the why, but it's massive.
Yep.
Just, I think when they know the purpose and they get the understanding of it, then they can get out there and feel confident with delivering it. So,
Awesome. I think that'll be, we don't want to go too long, eh?
Enough James in there.
No, what you've brought to the table tonight's been awesome. Always hear new things. We haven't really spoke about our work as a collective over the season.
No, I'm sort of
But I think it's been real cool to be in this Dunedin environment and in this club space, because I actually think I spoke to you about it last week, or someone in the Lander space, it might have been Kane, about how I come into this environment so fresh, into this role so fresh, and you guys did everything in your power to make me feel valued and feel welcomed and appreciated. And I think my growth and knowledge around performance analysis, around rugby, around the sports space and being part of a team has grown so heavily in the last 2 seasons because of the environment that is here, and that willingness to develop and to learn. And I think coming on board and you guys accepting me and trying to do, like, just make the most of having that has been really awesome. And it's been cool to see growth over such a short period of time.
That's the beauty of rugby. It is. Doesn't matter where you come from, you're part of a bigger whānau, you know what I mean? You're part of a club, and you've summed that up so nicely, Maddie. So good note to end on, eh?
Yeah. And I do hope that it grows like this. I've been so fortunate as a performance analyst to be a part of the coaching group so early on and feel like I have a say. And because in a lot of environments, the analyst is just still that person out there, whereas it's becoming so much more tight knit, and they actually, have a say and have a bigger opinion. So it's been cool to be part of that environment so early on, and the rugby space and that club level was cool. And it's cool to see it grow and see the players come out of it, going into that high level. Even this one's coming up from school will be cool as well, having that elevate, provide them with stuff in that school level. You'll probably have a growth in people coming through that are like
exposed to it more, right?
Especially from that land, like that under 18 space as well. But yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you all for taking your time from your whānaus and your jobs. It's awesome.
Easy.
Cool.
Easy. Thank you.
All good. Thank you.
Good-o.
Oh.
Yay! Kia ora. If you're hearing this message, you've watched the entire episode. For that, ngā mihi, thank you for listening to Analyst's Point of View. Also, ngā mihi to the guests. I appreciate your contribution to this episode. I hope you found value in watching this episode and listening to the guests' experiences within the performance analysis industry. If you did, please give it a like and share with others who you believe may be interested. This contribution will continue to help grow the understanding of what performance analysis is and what analysts do. Ngā mihi I tō tautoko I a au. Thanks for your support of me. Kia ora.